Hey guys, your friendly neighborhood natty here. My name is Matthew, and today's video is going to be unboxing and range report for the Diamondback DB9. Now when I bought the DB9, I was under the impression that it was a double action gun in the traditional sense. I suppose technically it qualifies as that, but what I'm thinking of when I think of a double action gun, which is what my master taught me, is that single action and double action are referring to the trigger. The trigger is doing one or two jobs. Typically the job of a single action trigger is that it just drops the hammer. The job of a double action trigger, it'll cock the hammer and drop the hammer as well in one trigger pull. So as an example, here's a Mob PA-15. This is an SAO gun, single action only. If I pull the trigger while the hammer is down, nothing's going to happen. The hammer has to be cocked, and then the trigger can do its one job and drop the hammer. Now, here's another example, is a HKP 2000. This can also do one job. If you pre-cock the hammer, it drops the hammer, but at the same time it can also do double action. It will cock the hammer and drop the hammer as well. Revolvers, assuming it's not a cowboy gun, does the exact same thing. You can cock the hammer and get one action out of the trigger, or you can get two actions, the cock and the fall of the hammer. So I thought that the Diamondback DB9 was similar to the Bodyguard 380. So this is a true double action gun, is what I would call it. It's got kind of a shrouded hammer, so you can see it in there. He's hiding, and you might be able to see it here, but maybe if he peeks out a little bit. That is a kind of a shrouded hammer, internal hammer. And once again, that's a true double action because the trigger is cocking the hammer and it's dropping it as well. It's doing two jobs. That's what I thought the Diamondback DB9 was, but it's not. It's actually similar to a Ruger LCP being striker fired instead of hammer fired. So here are the Ruger LCP-1 and LCP-2. So this category of double action, as they call it, is that when you prepare the gun, magazine in, back the slide, the LCP-1 to me appears to be 50% of the way cocked. And so when you pull the trigger, it's going to finish the cocking motion and then drop the hammer at the same time. So technicality, double action, I suppose. The LCP-1, people mistake this for single action, but I don't think it is. It is double action, it's cocked like 90% of the way, like 90 to 95%, and you can get it to dance a little bit, you know, but again, it completes that 10% of the cocking cycle, then it drops the hammer. So in my opinion, it's still double action. But that's actually what manufacturers and reviewers are talking about when they say the gun is a double action striker fired. That's not technically true because it can't fire from a dead position, right? It only fires from that pre-cock position, which only happens if the slide is racked back, which would happen under recoil when you fire the first round, right? So for example, if you get a dead round, nothing happened, you can't pull again, nothing's gonna happen. You have to tap, rack, and bang, try again, right? It's not like the 380, if you get a dead round, you can just try again. You know what I mean? So if you were looking for what I was looking for, a true double action, you can't go by if the manufacturer says double action. One thing I found is if they say second strike. If they can second strike, then that's a true double action for us old folk in the way that we think of it. But I hope that helps with the confusion, because I was certainly confused when it wasn't what I wanted. So poor me, I suppose. Moving on to the unboxing of the firearm, you get a nice cardboard box, as all guns come in these days. Then we have this case. You get a nice little case there. This is what the gun is in. Then we get this kind of a flat base plate. You only get one mag, so you only get one mag with a DB9. Got some lube, and never leave home without it. Here's an instruction manual. We got the lock, obligatory lock, and that's about it. That's all that you get in the box. Now, in regards to the firearm itself, There she is, Diamondback DB9. Very small gun. I don't remember the size of a Glock 26 Gen 4. I had that years ago. I think this is smaller than that, you know, just going off memory. And then even the Glock 43, which I believe is a single stack 9mm, I mean, that'd be thinner, but I would imagine this is still smaller than that. And I don't know how many rounds the Glock 43 is, but yeah, this is a tiny thing. Very light, very concealable, and it's in 9mm. So I guess we could say that this is pretty much everyone's dream self-defense gun, huh? The first thing I'd say is that the mag release is very recessed. If you aren't, you know, clearly looking for it, it's kind of hard to hit. You know, kind of hard to hit. So that might be a pro or a con depending on what you're looking for. With a gun this small, I wouldn't even put this in the category of subcompact, which has some, I would say, duty use, or even possibly like long range training, or not long range, just range training for like a very long session, like 120, 150 rounds. I think this is not appropriate for that. It's very small, very light, and then 9mm, it's going to be snappy as hell. Now, the trigger itself, I would have to say, is a very nice trigger. So it's striker fired, so we can't really see how pre-cocked it is, but I mean, it really must be cocked almost all the way because the trigger is not that far. There's a lot of slop here, but still, you know, once you complete the pull, it's very light. I mean, it's, I don't know, 4.5 pounds. It's really not that bad. As far as trigger reset, ooh, maybe we can't get it on this one. Let me see. Oh no, wait, we're going to do this first. There it is. Okay, trigger reset's not that bad. Now, the sights are actually Glock sights. You can change them out for Glock sights, Glock compatible, so that's kind of nice if you're already used to this kind of firearm. Another thing too is that it actually disassembles exactly like a Glock 2. So usually with the Glock, what you'll do is that you eject the magazine. So I've already done that. Magazine's out, then you're going to, do you cock it? Yeah, you cock it. And then what you're going to do, well, sorry, you cock it and you make sure nothing's in there and you look at it. Then you go ahead and you're going to pull back a little bit, you know, so you see how you pull the gun back just a little bit. You're going to pull back a little bit and there are tabs on both sides. You're going to hold that down while you pull back a little bit, and then you're going to let it go, pull the trigger, and then it comes out. You know, very simple, very easy. You can take out the recoil spring. You can take out the barrel, you know, very simple, very similar to a Glock. So, I mean, you know, if you wanted something, I mean, don't quote me, but I think this is smaller than the Glock 26 and Glock 43. If you want something even smaller than those guns, then, I mean, I'd say you feel right at home here, and, you know, you can use all your sights, so that's always a plus. One thing I'll say is that the sights are adjustable, but it uses an M4 hex screw, and that's nowhere to be found in the box. So it looks like you're going to have that in you have to find that in your own toolbox. As far as the range report goes, I brought 200 rounds, and the reason why was because this Up-Lula is amazing. You can really load anything from double stack to single stack. A little awkward with single stack, but it still works. And so it's very easy for me to go to 200 rounds. Usually when you load up magazines by hand, they take a long time. And remember, I have a 30-minute time limit. I think it's $24 for half an hour. So that's I don't know. I'd say that's pretty expensive, you know. And I don't like to be rushed, but it's nice that the Up-Lula mag loader, I highly recommend that. It's very good. The ammunition I brought was Blazer brass. You know, 115 grain, nothing special. I bought 200 of those. I shot at 7 feet, or 7 yards, 21 feet. That's where I shot at, you know, atypical. I did bring the P15 with me, and the reason why was because, you know, you hear stories. You hear stories about the P15 and things can go wrong and guns can be knocked out of commission entirely, like the MP5K. was knocked out entirely out of service, and I had to continue with the CZ P07. So I just brought this as backup, just in case, you know, the DB9 went down. Now, as for the targets, I like this one. I like this target. It's kind of my favorite, but it's 6 targets, you know? You get to choose 6 targets. You can kind of decide what you want to work on, aim for, stuff like that. It's very nice. So to start off with, we're going to look at target 1. Now, with target 1, a lot of shots are kind of low. Here, I think with the Diamondback DB9, with its very snappy recoil, you know, it jumps pretty hard. I may have just anticipated that and so it kind of dipped a little bit, you know, in the recoil. And the magazine is 6 shots. So I went 3 sets on the first target. So it would have been 18 shots. And then I had 2 more sets that they would be 6-shot, you know, mags, and they went in a cycle. So they would go to target 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So, you know, with target 1, a lot of those centered hits, I think that's after the 4th or 5th cycle where I got more used to the gun, but most of the shots were definitely low. Now, if we look at target 2, we see kind of the same thing. Again, I think a majority of those low shots was the first three sets of mags, and me just anticipating that heavy recoil, and then most of those center shots, again, were just maybe the 4th or 5th set to where I kind of chill out, relax, and I'm able to get more centered hits. Last, we have target 3, and again, I think this is probably a little bit better. Well, not really. No center hits here, but I think that, again, I'm still kind of aiming low, anticipating recoil. So, again, I think well, I gotta tell you guys, by the time I got to 90 shots, I actually couldn't shoot the gun anymore. And the reason why was because the flesh of my finger was being ripped off. It was being blown off, torn off. I'm not 100% sure. That happened at shot 90. So I think that's why with target 3, you're seeing no improvement there. I think it's just, I think the damage kind of getting pretty bad. I noticed something at about round 50 where it was kind of like calluses, concussive calluses I noticed on it. But I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, I could still shoot, and so I did. Till I got shot 90, and I was like, oh, nope. No, you can't shoot anymore, that's it. So I had to switch over to the P15. In regards to Diamondback DB9's performance, I mean, other than ripping my skin off, I would say it was good. It was fine. I think initially when I was charging the gun, if you ever charge the gun from with the slide like down like this, if you try to rack and then load the gun that way, it would hang up. It would fail to feed. And I think that happened 2 or 3 times, but then afterwards it never happened again. If I ever tried to feed the gun from its locked position, if I can get it with my taped up finger here, if I ever charge from here, this is no problem. I can put the mag in, charge, it's no problem. But if I try to charge from here is when it would fail to feed. But again, that stopped happening. So honestly, I think it's okay. I think it's fine. Also, you know, when the skin was ripped off, I'll put the picture up here for you to see, but when the skin ripped off, it seemed to be more of like a lower angle rather than on the front pad of the first digit. So usually when you fire firearms, you'll have your finger here, kind of, sort of, right? And it's kind of just right in the center of that pad. So I'm trying to think, well, okay, if it's ripping the skin off this way, then well, like what's going on, right? Like under recoil, then something's coming back and then pulling the flesh this way. So I'm not 100% sure. I just shot the rounds and that's what I noticed. But yeah, I don't know if maybe that's something that can be alleviated if you have maybe a different grip structure or anything like that. I have pretty, I'd say small hands actually. So I can't imagine what the damage would be like if you have bigger hands or smaller hands. I'm not 100% sure, but the recoil was snappy. It was snappy as hell. I wouldn't say uncomfortable. In fact, I think I got used to it. It's just the damage it was doing to my finger was, you know, lowering my ability to shoot the gun. Now moving on to the PA-15. This is the gun that I switched to after I lost some skin. I switched to this gun here. Target 5. So target 4 I didn't shoot at all. Target 5 is where I shot left-handed. And as you can see here, they are pretty, I'd say, centered, somewhat. Good centered for, you know, 7 yards, 21 feet. I will say that that was 40 rounds and I had to stop. And why did I have to stop? Well, it's because my flesh continued to tear, you know. So I don't think the problem is this gun. I don't think it did that. My finger was already damaged, so anything could have damaged it further. And 40 rounds of this gun in my left hand is where more skin torn off, and I was like, yo, I'm done. This finger's done. It's not going anymore. So with 70 rounds left, so 90 on the Diamondback DB9, and then 40 rounds on the PA-15 left hand, I still have 70 rounds. So I put that on my right hand. I shot my right hand, and I put that on target 6. Very good group, but pulling a little to the left. I think that's just me not being right-handed, so I don't shoot ever right-handed. I will say that I noticed the gun kind of feels wrong in my right hand, you know, so here it's like everything's good, I'm okay, and then I switch it and it's like, well, wait a second, let me let me be 100% sure if this feels right, and it doesn't feel right. So I don't know if, you know, my body is detecting like, yeah, you're not holding it the way you hold it left-handed, or if it's like you never shoot this gun, so it's always going to feel awkward like that. In regards to performance, this gun is awesome. It's fantastic. You know, very heavy gun. So, you know, in 9mm, the recoil is a joke, basically a joke. I don't know if it's as heavy as a Beretta, probably pretty similar, but I mean, it's really good. Now, there was a couple things. The gun would fail to lock back. The slide would fail to lock back. You'll see that in the range footage at the end of the video where I kind of, you know, I fire the last shot and I'm ready, but oh, it still looks like this, and then no, it was out. The gun just failed to slide, failed to lock back. That didn't happen in the beginning, but it did happen, I think, near the end. So near the end, it failed to lock the slide back. This is an old gun. I think this was made kind of during the time of the Vietnam War, when the French were in Southeast Asia. So like Indochina is what they called it at the time, because they had a kingdom in Laos, Luang Prabang. But yeah, the slide lock looks fine to me. It doesn't look like it needs to be repaired, you know. And even now, you know, it's gonna work just fine. So, you know, maybe it's just a range thing, but I mean, yeah, seems okay. So I'm not 100% sure, but you know, I still like the gun. It's great. Lots and lots of fun. So, in conclusion, what is there to say? Naturally, I understand that some people might say that, you know, the Diamondback DB9 is not a good gun, it's a bad gun, or it serves no purpose. Very few times in martial arts, unless it's completely made up, martial arts don't ever have no purpose or are useless. They can be so specific that it doesn't apply to the general population, but that's still technically not useless, you know? An example is that there's kind of like this long pike spear, and it has one particular use. It's when the enemy charges on horseback and you want to dismount the cavalry and you knock them off their horse. That's what it's used for, okay? You don't fight with this thing. You don't fight them with the thing. You just use it to knock them out of the horse. Very specific purpose, right? And I think this might fall into a category similar to that. As you can imagine, I've talked about the Bodyguard, where I hated this gun. I hated this gun when I first shot it, but I was a much weaker martial artist. Now I love the gun and I'm a much stronger martial artist, and so the difference was me. It wasn't the gun, it was me. I wasn't ready for it, you know? And so in the way that this is not a novice gun, well, there's no doubt that this is definitely not a novice gun, because it's in a much more powerful caliber. You know, 9mm is better than 380. you know, it is a little bit bigger than the Bodyguard, you know, just barely, but you know, it's pretty similar to it. It's just in a much more powerful caliber, more recoil. It's got good concealability. It's a very light gun, right? But if I'm telling you that the Bodyguard is not a beginner's gun, then this is clearly not a beginner's gun either. I would also argue that the level of efficiency or proficiency you develop with a gun is going to be severely stunted, and the investment is annoyingly long. So what do I mean by that? So when I shot the Bodyguard, I think we did 100 rounds. If you told me to do 200, I'd have no problem. If you told me to do 300, I might be annoyed, right? But I can do it. That's the difference, right? With the Diamondback DB9, I got knocked out, literally, at 90 rounds, okay? I can't go past that, right? So you're looking at, all right, the rate of proficiency is very slow, right? If I do 300 rounds every range test, I'm gonna master this pretty quickly, okay? But if I can't even do 90, let's just say, well, 50 is when I started to see the skin sort of callus up, so it can't be 50, right? Okay, how about 20? Okay, so every time you go to the range, only 20 rounds. I mean, how long does that take to become a master of that gun? A very long time, I would imagine, right? So once again, not a novice gun, doesn't apply to the majority of the general population. It's going to be somebody who A, is willing to accept that incredibly low proficiency rate, willing to deal with a high investment, you know, of having to do this 20 rounds every range. Obviously, maybe not like every week. Well, maybe you could, if you don't do anything else, right? Who's going to really put up with that? And again, it's going to be somebody who is who's a lifer. they're a lifer from martial arts. They're the only people that I think would have a use for this gun, right? And you got to think, what's the gain of this? Really, it's just 9mm, right? I mean, aren't you getting the same thing in the 380, except that you can have a faster proficiency, not as long investment time, just as light, just as concealable, probably more concealable. You see what I'm saying? It seems like you must really want this for a reason, or 9mm ballistics is that important to you. That's up to you to decide. If you want to make this kind of something that you would depend on with good proficiency, I would say you have to put 20 rounds every time you go to the range. Whether you go every week or every 2 weeks or once a month, that's up to you. But you should do 20 rounds. I also think that they should be very good, slow, controlled shots. So don't go for speed, okay? I really don't think that's the point of this gun, because having the rounds hit where they need to go is much more important than firing fast, you know? That may come in a very long investment time. But for now, I would just focus on the accuracy. 20 shots, slow and controlled every time. That's up to you whether you want to do it at the beginning or the end of your range test. So, you know, I will do this as well just to test out my theory. But as I shoot other guns in the future, I will put 20 rounds here, 9mm, 115 every time. And I'll show you guys, am I getting better with this or not, you know? But yes, I think it's too specific. It has too much of a specific purpose, I think, to be available to the general person, the normal kind of person, you know. So I don't recommend this for the novice, the beginner. This is a very advanced pistol, much more advanced than the Bodyguard, you know, which I also consider not a novice gun. But that's up to you. You guys can do what you want. That's just the conclusions that I came to. I hope the video was helpful for you. I hope the information helps you make a decision. If you want to get it or not, again, that's up to you. There are better options with much faster proficiency and less investment time, but you are your own man, your own woman. You can make your own decisions. So I hope the video was helpful to you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will put the range footage at the end of this video for you guys to enjoy. So I'll see you guys next time, okay? Bye now.
You learned martial arts! Martial arts, go!